Hi everyone and welcome back to Charlie's Journey. If you are new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and to all my current subscribers, once again, thanks for your love and support. In my previous video, I discussed the importance of healing from traumatic things that we've gone through, difficult things that we've gone through. And if you are new here and you've never watched any of my videos before, I talk about my healing journey from being in a high control religion. I was a Jehovah's Witness for almost 30 years, practically 30 years of my life. And I left back in 2019, so almost 4 years ago. And since then, I've gone through a plethora of different things that have led me to where I am today. So I'm just sharing the things that I found helpful in the hopes that it will help someone else. Of course, you don't have to be an ex-Jehovah's Witness or have been in a high control religion to watch my videos, because what I'm saying can apply to many different difficult situations that you may have been through. As I said in my previous video, I talked about the importance of healing, and I said that I would talk in a little bit more detail about the things that I did when I decided that it was time for me to start my healing journey. So let's get straight into it. Number one, I started to research. I'd mentioned this briefly before, but I started to research my own religion from an outside perspective, something that you're not encouraged to do. If you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, that is forbidden, that is a no-no, that is a never. But I started to do that because I was very confused, I was very conflicted. I had been taught a load of things that I just was confused. I was very confused. So I started to do some research into the religion from an outside perspective, like I said, and found out a lot of things that were shocking, saddening, and basically pulled the rug from underneath me. And it was vital that I did that because, as I said, I was hanging on to certain things and I was still asking questions about other things. I needed to understand what I had been taught. Was any of it true? And conversely, I had learned some things that for years I had professed were not true about the religion, only to find out that they were true. So very devastating stuff, but I needed to do that. Once I had done that, I read some books as well, a couple of books on the subject that again really helped me. And after that, I desperately needed somebody to relate to. I needed to find some kind of support. So the second thing I did was I started to seek out support groups online. So I went onto Facebook primarily and found some ex-JW groups that were very helpful, because I posted a good few questions in there regarding how to speak to my children about the fact that we were no longer Jehovah's Witnesses, or mummy was no longer a Jehovah's Witness. And I went on there to find out if there was, I went on there to find others that were in a similar position, had either just left recently, because around that time, 2019, 2020, there was a massive, I'd say massive because for me it felt that way. It may not have been, because obviously I'd never been in that position before, just leaving. But it felt like there was a load of people that had left, and I think that was due to lockdown. I feel like a lot of people were then able to, because of lockdown and not being able to attend the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall in person anymore, there were a lot more people online who were able to, without the pressure of having to go to each meeting each week and the pressure of having to preach and go out knocking on doors, they were able to spend a lot more time online researching different things. And I think that was really invaluable in helping a lot of people wake up to what was going on. So there were a good number of people that were in the same position as me, as they had just left, or they had left maybe a few months before I had, or etc. So that was really, really helpful, and I did make a couple of friends through doing that, connected with a few people. The third thing I did was go onto YouTube, because at times I felt extremely lonely. I've talked about this before, but I felt extremely lonely. I was extremely lonely because although I had my children, of course they're children, can't talk to them or offload on them about anything to do with what I was going through. So there was no other adult that I could speak to who understood fully what I was going through. Of course, I did have a small handful of friends, but again, they had never experienced anything that I had experienced before, and I would mention certain things and they'd be like, what, wow, you know. Everyone was just felt very sorry for me, and just through no fault of their own would say, well, you know, I'm sure your mum will come around, or I'm sure your family will come around soon, and they can't possibly continue this, you know, long term. I'm sure it's just for now. And I kept trying to explain to them, no, you don't understand. Don't understand unless you have been part of that religion. You do not understand the level of dedication that members have to their interpretation of the Bible. So I don't like to ever sit here and like make it seem like I'm having a dig at anybody that's a follower. My issue is always with those at the top who are aware of what they are doing and the level of the control that they have over the members further down. So my friends would say things like, you know, I'm sure in time your family will come around. I'm sure, you know, they can't possibly shun you forever, and things like that. Trying to explain to them, like I said, unless you've been part of it, you don't understand. I was once part of it, and I used to feel the way that they did. I used to have such a staunch, narrow-minded view of how I believed things should be, and it's only until I came out of that I realized that that was the case for myself. So it's only when you're part of it, it's only if you've been exposed to it, it's only if you've studied the Bible with this organization will you fully know the level of control that they're under mentally. So I say all that to say that I needed to seek out people that I felt I could relate to and that could relate to me. So even though on YouTube, obviously it's a one-way thing, I'm watching videos and the person on the other side obviously cannot speak back to me, it was still very comforting to go and find it was still extremely comforting to find YouTube channels made by people that were coming from where I was coming from. So for instance, Lloyd Evans, who at the time was called John Cedars, the John Cedars channel, was extremely helpful for me when I was going through those early days, because he very much talks about, he very much exposes the Jehovah's Witness organisation. He very much exposes the Jehovah's Witness organisation and the flaws within the religion and the untruths and things like that. And again, that was what I needed, as well as sharing some of his personal experiences about his journey to waking up and things like that. But I was on the lookout for education as well. So it was a brilliant channel for that. There was another channel, I can't exactly remember the name because this was a while ago, but it was regarding shunning. And this ex-Jehovah's Witness talked more on a more personal level about her journey being shunned by her family after she woke up from the religion. And that was, I loved that channel so much, because everything she was saying, or I say everything, 99% of what she was saying I could relate to. 99% of what she was saying I could relate to. The only thing that was different with her is that she had her partner, who she was fortunate enough to, they had both woken up at the same time or around similar sort of time, not very long between them both waking up, so at least they had each other to be able to talk to and lean on. But of course it's not any easier, because her family is her family, that's her flesh and blood, and of course she misses them still. But the feelings that she would express are very much related to that, and I emailed her a couple of times and she emailed back, which was really nice. And I think she even went into therapy work, I'm not quite sure because this was a while ago, and she doesn't make videos like that anymore, I don't think. Again, this was almost 4 years ago, but it was amazing. And there was other channels as well. Jexit, I'll give him a shout out because he's somebody who I have met before when we were both chosen. I don't think he remembers me, but I remember him, and I was like, yeah, I remember meeting you back in the day when I was a witness. And he's no longer a witness himself now. He makes videos and content on here and other social media sites, and his channel was excellent as well. He interviewed a lot of people that had left and shared their stories. So things like that was just brilliant for me. So again, relating it back to anybody who's not a chosen is, whatever the area, whatever the issue is that you have gone through, seek out videos and books and websites online. Seek out websites online that relate to whatever it is you're going through. If you're suffering from depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, you know, trauma from being in a bad relationship, or whatever it might be, do that. Do those specific videos, search out those specific search out specifically what relates to what you're going through, 100%, because that comforted me so much. I watched thousands of hours of YouTube videos, and sometimes, and what's obviously good about YouTube is once you've uploaded a video, it's there. So I would sometimes go back and watch the same sort of video over and over again. On times where I was feeling really low, I might just rewatch the same video that I'd watched, because, or you know, certain videos I would really hone in on, because I'd be like, yeah, I know how that person feels, because that's exactly how I feel right now. And it was just comforting to know that I wasn't alone. So that's the next thing I did. I mentioned in my previous video again, therapy isn't for everyone, I'll say that again. But if that is something that you do feel that will benefit you, research the different types of therapy, because it's not just one form of therapy. I needed practical therapy, and I wanted specialized therapy, whether it was somebody who had been trained to deal with the issues and the difficulties that people who have left the chosen religion go through, or whether it was somebody who was an actual ex-Jehovah's themselves and who became a therapist. I wanted some sort of therapy, and I did find a couple of people that fit that criteria, but I couldn't afford it at the time. Therapy can be expensive, and that is why I went down more of the route of reading books and coming on YouTube, using Google, things like that. But if that's something you can afford, 100% go for it if you feel that that would benefit you. And lastly, I looked at my support network that I did have around me. Yes, I didn't have my family and all the people I'd grown up with for 30 odd years, and that was devastating. But I did have a handful of people around me who were supportive and caring, and who were in my life. Although they didn't fully understand where I was coming from, I decided that where I could, it was important for me to speak to them and seek support from them. Because I do have children, there are times when I need a bit of support physically with the children if their father's not able to help them because he's working. help them, not able to help in that way because he's working. But more important than that was emotionally, just picking up the phone when I needed to, and my friends were great for that. And I'm sure they, if they were watching this video, they'd be like, yes. There were many a time when I would pick up the phone and I'd be crying and I'd be like, I'm just so in pain, I'm so hurt, I miss them so much, and just venting. I needed to sometimes vent, I needed to sometimes offload, and I always felt bad for doing that because of the place I was at. I felt unworthy of doing that. Being an ex-chosen list leaves you with a lot of issues, and for me, one of the things was guilt. I always felt guilt about something. I felt guilt about, I would feel guilt about doing things for myself, taking time out for myself. I'd feel selfish if I needed help or support. There was a lot of things there. My friends were always inviting me to share with them, inviting me to call them whenever I needed to, and things like that. But I would always feel guilt and I would feel bad. And it took me a couple of years to get over that and to fully see that my friends meant what they were saying. They weren't just saying it to say it. They did mean, yes, of course, you know, you're on your own. Please call us if you need us, and please don't, you know. And they would also often express how helpless they felt, and that they wish they could do more, and that they wish they understood a bit more. But they truly felt for me and wished that they could change the situation, and a lot of the times that would also mean so much to me. I knew nobody could change the situation. I knew nobody could undo what was happening to me, but just knowing that my friends were like, just knowing that my friends felt that way was also nice and comforting. So the practical things I did on the start of my journey, and I would encourage anybody to do the same, specific to your situation. Please try and look around at what you can do for yourself, not what's missing. I know that's so difficult to do when you're in a dark place, when your mental health is not great, but it's really important that you do, on the days that you do have the energy and the strength to try and help yourself a little bit. It's very important that you can try and do those things. So I'm going to leave it there. If you have any comments or questions, my email is in the description of each video. So those are just some of the things I did at the very beginning of my journey. Of course, there's much more to share with you. If any of that was of value, please like the video, share it with anybody who you think might benefit from it. And I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday. I will see you on my next video.